Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym Podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 2035. The topic is Q&A, and the title is, How Impactful is Your Belief in a Process? Ooh. So a client sent me a long interview, and it was on Chris Williamson's YouTube channel, so you can check that out. It's Chris, Chris. Williamson is Williamson. And then the guest, his first name is Menno. The last name is Henselmans. So Menno Henselmans. There you go. They were talking actually a lot about protein and what is kind of the most amount of protein a person can absorb and utilize, what should be the right amount you need for various goals, including muscle mass. But one of the things that they mentioned in the video, which is why a client sent me the interview, is the placebo effect. So a placebo effect it's kind of where if you're given a sugar pill, but you're told that it helps you with energy, people would then report, oh yeah, man, I got great energy from that. But it's not really the pill, it's just their belief that something was going to work. So some examples they gave in the interview was one revolving around gluten sensitivity. So they had people come in and they rated their sensitivity to gluten among other things. And then the researchers fed them some food. And what they then told them was, oh, hey, this food, we said it was gluten-free, but it actually does contain trace amounts of gluten. It does have some gluten in it. So just so you know that we were being more, transparent. And then they studied people's responses. And what they found was that people, if they believed they were gluten intolerant, they would report more negative symptoms. However, the food actually didn't contain any gluten. So it actually was truly gluten-free. But their belief that they had ingested gluten made them feel nauseous, lightheaded, itchy. They were having different effects from it, believing that it contained gluten. However, it actually didn't. There was another study where they gave, this is an older study because it's unethical now, but they gave people who were experienced weightlifters fake Dianabol, which is a steroid. And they said, hey, we're going to give you some Dianabol. We're going to track your progress over the next 8 weeks. Should be some pretty cool progress, given a steroid, you're going to get much better results. So they gave them this fake steroid, but the participants believed they were given real steroids. So they pushed themselves harder in the gym. They were more consistent with their food intake, and they got excellent outcome, actually great results in 8 weeks using the fake steroid, even though it wasn't a real steroid. There was another one where they had groups split up, and there's apparently a gene that is related to cardiovascular performance. It has to do with oxygen consumption and how well we utilize oxygen. They found that there are people who just do it better than others. Like there's people who are 5 foot tall, 6 foot tall, 7 foot tall. So in the span of height, you can just be given a certain amount. In oxygen utilization, there is a genetic range in how well people utilize oxygen. Now you can train to, improve upon that for sure. But there is kind of a predisposition that some people will do better than others. What they did was they tested people in the groups, and they found some had the gene, some didn't. However, they mixed the groups up and they didn't tell the people the truth. They said, hey, this group, you all have the gene, this group, you don't. But they were actually 50-50 in each group. So some people they lied to, some people they didn't lie to. They then had them do cardiovascular tests, and the group that was told they had the gene and that they should be good at cardiovascular tests, they outperformed the group that was told that they shouldn't. However, there was no genetic predisposition for that. The groups were mixed. They should have performed equally. However, the belief, by simply being told that they should be good versus told that they shouldn't be good, made the difference in the outcome. So their belief in the situation, in the moment, their belief in themselves changed the outcome. Positive belief in a process does impact the outcome. But it doesn't impact the outcome outside of what's controlled within the participant's mind. Meaning, if you believe something will work, but you change absolutely nothing about your efforts, then you're going to get nothing. So the belief in something that we believe it works, the increase in results only occurs whenever that positive belief is translated into positive effort, like increase in effort. The client who sent this did so because they never have believed in themselves. They haven't believed that it was possible for them to be lean and muscular, which is what their goals are. They grew up skinny fat. They lifted weights on and off over, they said, for the last 15 years. So they just turned 30. They said they started kind of being active when they were 15. And they've tried, quote, every diet under the sun. But they still haven't seen the results they want. Whenever they were 18 years old, they sent a picture, and they were 5'10", around 190 pounds, and pudgy. Kind of like skinny fat. Like they didn't have any visible muscles. 190 is actually not that small of a person at 18. Like I graduated high school at 165. I would have loved to have been 190. So, but they just turned 30 years old. They had their 30th birthday. They now weigh 220 pounds, but they're still pudgy. They still don't have veins anywhere. They don't have any muscle definition. So they have gained 30 pounds in the last decade plus, but they don't feel that their body percentage is any different. They contacted me because they said they were tired of trying so hard, but always looking the same. They wanted to finally do something about it. They had their 30th birthday party. They saw the photos online and just are like, damn it, how am I 30 and I look worse? They've said they've tried off and on all through their 20s. They were really trying to make a difference, and it just doesn't seem like anything has really changed. So they're doubting if change is really possible. And now, from listening to that interview, they're wondering if their doubt is in part why they're not making progress. They asked, quote, could my perception of what my body is capable of be causing my body not to change? My answer was yes, but also no. Because I'm a complicated and annoying person. But I said, no, your perception doesn't change the physiological effect of dieting and training. Meaning, if I am in a caloric deficit and it's an appropriate deficit, I'm eating, foods that digest well, and everything on paper says I should lose weight. If I'm following that diet correctly, say I'm at least getting maybe 6 out of 7 days a week, I'm on point. And the seventh day, maybe just a little bit low on calories, a little high on calories, or a little bit low on protein, a little high on protein. But 6 out of 7 days, I'm spot on. It won't matter if you believe that it's not going to work, it will work. Likewise, if you believe something will work, but you're only doing it 4 out of 7 days, it's not going to work. So, belief, our perception, doesn't change the physiological effect of diet and training. But the answer is still yes. Because your perception does change your efforts and consistency towards diet and training. So when I looked through his nutrition app, he's actually been tracking things on a nutrition app. So I looked at the 28 days prior to him reaching out to me. Well, out of 28 days, he only tracked 22 of those days. And within 22 of those days, his caloric average was around 2,700 calories. But he had one day where he was 1,700 calories over that, and another day where he was 1,200 calories under that. If we're looking at 2,700 as his average, and we're like, okay, let's give him a little bit of a grace, let's say a 10% window, plus or minus 10%. He was only within plus or minus 10% of his average 8 out of 22 days. And his protein was similar, huge highs, huge lows, with less than 50% of the days at plus or minus the average. And then also within those 28 days, they changed their training model 3 times. So looking at nutrition only, nothing is going to work if out of 28 days, you're only within your target 8 of those days. If you're only consistent with habits that produce change, 8 out of 28 days, there's no chance in hell you're going to make any progress. Then, like I said, with training, he's changed his training model 3 times in 28 days. He did a week of military-style training. He said that included a lot of running and pull-ups, but he felt like the pull-ups were hurting his elbows, and he doesn't really like that kind of running. He said it was just long-distance boring. So he changed to CrossFit workouts. He's like, well, they do cardio, they do running, but they seem to do it in a more fun, kind of shorter distance way. So he did 3 CrossFit workouts, but he said he hates Olympic lifts. He's not very good at them. And he was like, I don't know if I could keep doing that. That felt very stressful in my body. So then he switched to an online bodybuilding program, but he has doubts with that program because it doesn't include any cardio. And he believes, and he's wondering, he's not sure, but he's like, isn't cardio needed for heart health? So I can't just do bodybuilding, I have to add cardio, but that program doesn't have cardio. So in 28 days, he's done 3 different training models. And so essentially his perception is what's causing his problems. Not in that if he doesn't believe progress is possible, but he does everything right, that belief will simply mean that he can't make progress. So by belief alone, no matter what he does, he can't make progress. That's not true. Where his belief is creating problem for him is it's creating inconsistency in his nutrition and inconsistency in his training. His perception of what's possible, his negative belief is causing a negative outcome. But it's causing a negative outcome in actions. Not because everything's perfect, but now just because he doesn't believe it's working, it won't work. If they have an approach that they were to give 100% intentional effort to, even if it wasn't like the best approach, they're still going to get better results. 8 out of 28 days is not good. 8 out of 28 days will not produce positive change. It wouldn't matter what you believed, positively or negatively. So your belief in a process does impact the outcome. But it doesn't impact the outcome outside of what you can control. Your belief impacts your quality and consistency of effort. That's where your focus should be. Find an approach you believe in, that you believe has potential, and then give it your absolute best. That's the important part, is you have to actually freaking do it. You can't say, well, this diet isn't working, and then we look and we're not even adherent half the days to the diet. It's not that the diet isn't working, you're not working. Now, if you find something and you want to give your best effort to it, for how long? Generally, I would aim for 4 to 6 months. That can seem kind of really extended and overwhelming, but the reason why is it usually takes a month or 2 for the person to get their daily habits in line to ensure that they can get their parameters. So for clients I work with, I ask them to be adherent to their calorie and protein targets 10 out of 14 days. So for every 2 weeks, 10 out of 14 days should be within both the calorie and protein ranges. If we're outside of those ranges for less than 10 out of 14 days, it's not that the diet isn't working. They're not working. That can be hard to hear. The comeback could be as well, this just isn't structured well for me, like I can't eat these foods. The way I ask my clients to eat whatever the hell you want. I don't care. We just have to get our calories and protein right. But if you want to eat chicken or fish or turkey, or you want to eat tofu, edamame, whatever like you want to do, whether you want to do it vegan, vegetarian, vegan or vegetarian, whether you want to do a Mediterranean diet, whether you want to do keto, whether you want to do intermittent fasting, whether you do high fat, low fat, high carb, low carb, all organic, I don't care. Later on, that stuff will matter. And later on, we would address that. But initially, we just have to have caloric consistency and protein consistency. So I try to encourage my people to find meals that are cost effective for them, whatever their income is, and then time effective, meaning quick and easy, something they can prepare quickly, have on hand easily, so that way they can be consistent. Consistency is the key. That's the main focus is, can I get my calorie and protein ranges through foods that fit well into my budget, I actually like the taste, I can prepare them on a regular basis to be consistent with them, and can I just do that for at least 10 out of 14 days? That's what matters. So when I'm saying, like if a client to me like isn't adherent at least 10 out of 14, so maybe they're at 50% adherence or less, I don't just tell them, hey, you're a lazy piece of crap. That's not true. Absolutely not true. That's kind of the stuff I tell myself, but I would never tell anyone else. And the reason why is because they're not lazy. If they sought out a trainer and they're paying money to a trainer, they do care. They absolutely 100% want to make change. What we have to figure out is, why are we not doing it? Is it we're trying to adhere to certain foods that just aren't working well for us? So sometimes I'll tell people, hey, it doesn't really matter whether you have fats or carbs. When they try things for like two or 3 weeks, and I'm like, hey, we're really inconsistent. What's going on? And they're like, well, I read in an article that I wasn't supposed to have carbs for breakfast. And I'm like, oh, well, let's hold off on that. Let's eat whatever the hell we have to eat to be consistent with breakfast. Then let's come back and look at whether we should have carbs or not. But then also, in the meantime, why the hell would that matter? So I'll be like, let's talk through this. And we educate. Yeah, that's the idea is, I want them to feel that this is a partnership. I want to teach them things. But sometimes people do add their own restrictions on top of the things I ask them to do. So I ask them to be open with me so we can address those, talk with those things, and work through it. But if somebody's not following the diet at least 10 out of 14 days, my main focus is let's explore why not. And let's figure that out. Let's address that. Let's try to see what we can do to get you up within 10 out of 14 days. So my goal is to work with them. So in the podcast, I do understand when I say, like, it's not that the diet's not working, you're not working. It sounds very aggressive. I like to say that because often people need the reality check. I can't even tell you how many times somebody will reach out to me and they'll say, hey, this diet isn't really working. I think we need to reduce calories. And I'll say, well, hey, let's look over the last 14 days. We were only within our calories 4 out of 14 days. It wouldn't matter if we adjusted our goal. We're not even hitting the current goal. Like, we're so inconsistent with what we're doing. I could tell you to eat 30 bananas in a day, and it wouldn't matter because you're not even doing that. Like, we're not doing the thing that we say we're trying to do. So if we change what we say we're trying to do, we're still not going to do that either. So let's be consistent with anything, and then let's worry about what that anything is. So the first goal is to focus on how can we be more consistent, and then we would look at calorie ranges. So those are the examples. I can't even tell you how many times somebody will be inconsistent enough to where they're actually under eating the targets. And they're like, well, the targets are too high. That's why I'm not losing weight. I need to eat, this much. And I'm like, well, you're actually eating that much. Since you've perceived the targets to be too high, you've been under eating. Since you've been under eating, your energy is crap. You're holding more water retention. Your weight isn't budging. And you think we need to go lower? When all the symptoms and signs are showing that the body's actually overstressed from being underfed. So why don't we try the targets and it'll really help. So the idea is to teach, if we're used to fat loss by just reducing calories, reducing calories, reducing calories, reducing calories. There actually is a too little. Like you can eat too few calories to lose weight. Like there's actually not enough food sometimes, meaning you need to eat more to lose fat. And oftentimes people find themselves in that position. The education, talking through the process, giving them some examples, having them try it for a little bit, all of a sudden they see positive change, and then we can work our way through that. So that in itself is a great example, as the same thing as what we see when looking at these studies that were mentioned in that interview, is our perception matters because it impacts our effort. Our perception doesn't override the physiological responses we have to diet and training. But our perception does impact the quality of effort that we put into our diet and training. So your perception matters, but it isn't kind of the be-all, end-all of what determines success. If you fully buy into a process, and no matter what approach you choose, if you say, I am going to be adherent, I'm going to put in my best effort and continue to refine what my best effort is. I am going to approach this as if it will work. Then it will. Sometimes when it doesn't is because the nutrition program maybe has too few of calories. It's overly restrictive. There are a lot of challenges when we do go full into something that sometimes it just doesn't work for us. That's because diets should be written per person, not just here's a structure and everyone needs to fit into it. So on our website, www.brutalirongym.com, you can go to our free nutrition education page. On that page, the first link is a document to create your own nutrition program. You don't have to pay me a dime. You don't have to pay anyone a dime. You can just use that and write your own nutrition program. It can feel overwhelming in how much freedom there is. So hiring me or hiring somebody who believes in a similar approach can help to answer questions and educate and kind of fine tune it. But really, nutrition programs should be built around the person, not, hey, here's a system that only works if everyone jams themselves into it. The approach is to have the right amount of calories, not too little, not too much. The right amount of protein, not too little, not too much. And then be consistent with that at least 10 out of 14 days. The foods that you eat to do that, if you can afford them, you can prep them well, and you like the taste, they're great, whatever that is. Now, we do have sugar limits on clients, so I don't want you to just eat like a box of Oreos or whatever and consider that a good meal. It's not a good meal. We do want to eat relatively healthy foods. But there's a huge freedom, a huge variety that's included. So carbs. You can have carbs, by the way. You can have breads, bagels, pasta, rice, potatoes, whatever the heck you want. All of those are fine. For protein sources, you can have animal proteins, you can have vegetarian proteins, you can have chicken, beef, fish, whatever you want. There's so many freedom of options. It just comes down to hitting your calories and your protein consistently every single day, or 10 out of 14 days. And then what are foods that match my cost effectiveness, time effectiveness, food preferences, digestibility? Do I digest them well? Do I feel good after I eat these things? That's all personalization. And that's where a diet should have freedom to let you pick and choose within those parameters, those elements, because all of those elements have a ton of freedom within them. There's no need to force yourself into foods you don't like, the foods you don't digest well, foods you can't afford, foods that take forever to prep. No need for any of that stuff. So I would encourage you, if you were worried about like this client is my negative belief impacting me negatively? Yeah, if it's creating less than your best in effort and it's making you be inconsistent, then yes, it's a negative. But does your belief in a process determine the outcome of the process in the sense of overriding physiological adaptation responses? No. So if the diet is set up correctly, if the training is set up correctly, it will work whether you believe it or not, assuming that you're consistent with it whether you believe it or not. So for this client, are they destined to be skinny fat forever? Hell no. Hell no. We just have to find something that they believe in enough to be consistent with enough for long enough. Give them a month or two to get their habits in place, and then say a good solid 3 months of consistency, and then you're definitely going to see change. Okay. Hopefully that was helpful. I really appreciate when clients reach out with these kind of things. Super fun. I actually really liked that interview. I ended up listening to the whole thing myself. It was very fun, good stuff. So if you're a listener, whether you're a client or not, if you have any questions, if you hear anything on social media and you're like, oof, I don't know about this, seems odd, or I wonder if that's true, reach out. I'm happy to make these podcasts for anybody that wants them. I made 2,000 of these things. It does get a little hard to think of topics. So I appreciate questions, I appreciate input, I appreciate suggestions, because I want to make sure that the podcast is always helpful, at least to someone. So if somebody asks me a question and I make a podcast for you, I know at least one listener is going to be happy. And that's kind of the goal, is just making sure the podcast is always whatever you, the listener, would need it to be. So let me know. You can message me on our website, www.brittlirongym.com. On the bottom of the homepage is a contact form. Send me any questions, send me any topic suggestions, anything you want to know about, let me know, and I'll make a podcast for you. Awesome. Well, if you like the podcast, please share the podcast. The more people we share it with, the more people it'll help. If you like the podcast, you can consider donating to support the podcast financially, which absolutely does help because there's a high hosting cost every year. So I appreciate those who do that. And then if you like the information we share in the podcast, I do share other stuff on our social media channels on Instagram and YouTube. So you can find us on those kind of platforms, and then follow us, please, if you do find us. Just helps the platforms grow, helps the reach grow if we have more followers, more likes, and more interactions. So thank you for those who do that. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.